Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for Scotland for EU4 1.35 Domination. So Scotland is a nation that starts off in the northern portion of Great Britain right here, and many newer players are deterred from playing Scotland due to the fact that they think it's actually way harder than England over here. You're going to have to fight them, you're going to have to expand over in Ireland, so it's not a very popular nation. But what most players don't know is that it's actually an easier start than England, because as England you have to start off fighting your biggest rival right away, France, which is a lot more powerful than you, and they will have their allies and stuff like that. And then you also have to deal with the whole civil war thing, whereas in Scotland we don't have those problems. We don't have a civil war to deal with. We can very easily get strong allies ourselves, such as France, Castile, and other nations like that. And in our first war, which will be versus England, we will be able to crush them super easily, because we actually will be more powerful than them in this first war right here. Scotland has some pretty good national ideas, starting off with plus 25% land force limit and +1 land leader shock and minus 5% land maintenance as a finisher. And in the meantime, we have -1 national west, minus 10% ship cost, plus 20% national manpower, which is really strong, a 10% stab discount, plus 10% tax, +1 government thingy, and minus 15% aggressive expansion impact. And this pretty good Scottish mission tree right here will enable us to expand all over the British Isles and maybe even do a little bit of colonizing. And of course, we do start off with a unique government form as well, the Scottish monarchy, which enables the parliament mechanic and gives us fort defense and diplo rep, along with minus 10% nobles influence, which is pretty strong as well. By playing as Scotland, you will go on to dominate Great Britain and Ireland in no time, and of course you can go on to form Great Britain later on if you want to. You'll conquer this region in no time, expand in Europe if that is your goal, and of course you will go on to colonize if that is your goal as well. So sit back, relax, and learn what you need to do as Scotland. Alright, here we are as Scotland, and the first thing you're going to want to check when you start up a game as Scotland is if England and Castile have rivaled each other, like it is the case in my game right here. This does happen pretty often, and this is the first thing you need to get in order to start a game as Scotland. If England and Castile haven't rivaled each other, then go ahead and restart. In 3 games that I started up, I got this 3 out of 3 times, so I guess it is pretty common. But of course, the first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and start a debate in your parliament, and then go ahead and pick whichever of these seems the best for you. You should go ahead and get a stability one if you can find one, or something with army bonuses if you can. In my game right here, this seems to be the best one that I can get, so I'm just going to go ahead and select it and then do whatever the parliament basically asks you to do. I just have to give up a little bit of crownland for it. And there we go. There's your first debate passed, and you gain those awesome bonuses. Next, you can go ahead and go into your estates and summon the diet. You can pick whichever agenda is best for you. Then we're going to give the clergy religious state, clerical advisory council, religious diplomats, and clerical education. We're going to give the nobility primacy of the nobility, increased levies, and aristocratic councillors. And we're going to give the burghers land of commerce, patronage of the arts, commercial advisory board, and indebted to the burghers. Then you can go ahead and seize land. Next, you should go into your rivals and only rival England. And after that, as we can see, we have 2 merchants right here. With one merchant, we're gonna go ahead and tell him to collect in Champagne and actually establish communities. We don't really care about trade with our initial war right here. And then with this other diplomat that we have, we're gonna tell him to go to Sevilla and collect there as well. And he's also gonna establish communities. This is so we can get good relations with France and Castile faster. Next, we're going to go into our advisors. Hire a manpower, fort defense, discipline, or morale level 1 mill advisor. I don't have any of those guys right here, so I'm actually just going to get this land force limit guy. And then we're also going to focus on mill. We're doing this so we can get Miltech 4 as fast as possible. As you know, we do start off with this 322 steward guy right here, and England starts off with this 000 guy. So we're either way going to get Miltech 4 ahead of them. We just want it to be as fast as possible. And this is good too, because we are going to be opening up with a mill idea group. Then go ahead and hire a diplo rep or improve relations, a level 1 dip advisor if you have him. I do have a diplo rep guy, so I am going to hire him, and they get whichever level 1 admin advisor you want. I'm just going to get this yearly inflation reduction guy. We will be losing money right here at the start, but we will get that sorted in no time, so don't worry about that at all. Next, we're going to get our boats together right here and then send them somewhere up north. We're not really going to be utilizing them in our first war right here. And then you're going to take your main army right here and build 6 more infantry regiments. Then we're also going to hire the Free Company later on when we're ready to start our war. Now you can also lower army maintenance and turn off your forts to save a little bit of money. And now what to do with our free diplomats right here. As you can see, we have 3 of them. With the first diplomat, we're going to go ahead and start spying on England immediately. Yes, we will get claims on England from our mission tree later on, but we are faster than our missions right here, so that's why we want to manually get a claim. Next, with another free diplomat, we're going to go ahead and start improving relations with France, and then with the final one, you will start improving relations with Castile as well. You should be able to Royal Marry France pretty quickly. Don't ally them just yet though, even if you are able to, just like I am right at the start. We don't want to get involved in the France versus England war, which is the next thing we actually want to happen in our game. So just spy on England and improve relations with France and improve with Castile until you can Royal Marry them. Now we're waiting for the England-France war to start and for us to get Miltech 4. The reason we want to get England and Castile to rival each other right at the start is because, as you all know, England starts off allied with Portugal. So when we declare on England right here pretty soon, obviously we're also going to have to fight Portugal and then whoever else England allies, which is usually some Irish miners. By getting Castile in that war, we'll be able to knock out Portugal super quickly, and maybe they'll even come and help out over here. But more importantly, if Castile decides to declare their initial war on Granada right here, which is usually allied to these guys, they sometimes call in Portugal. So, with that, while Castile is fighting Granada with Portugal, we'll declare on England and call in Castile, which will actually make Portugal not come into our war versus England. So that's another way that we have a bonus from allying Castile. Either they help versus Portugal, or Portugal isn't involved at all. England may warn you right at the start, this doesn't matter for us. Once you're able to Royal Marry Castile, you should go ahead and do it, and after that, of course, you will be able to ally them as well. At this point, you should probably be able to Royal Marry France too, so that's exactly what I'm gonna do. There we go, I've Royal Married France, but like I said, don't ally them yet. And now I've allied Castile as well after Royal Marrying them, and after you ally Castile, you should start currying favors and improving relations with them as well. So, with 2 diplomats, one is going to curry favors, one is going to improve relations, both with Castile, and with this other diplomat that's spying on England, after you get a claim on Northumberland right here, keep spying on them and don't claim anything else. And this is exactly what we were waiting for, the surrender of Maine event where England and France go to war. This is exactly what we wanted to happen. If there's any other outcome in this event, for example, if England just gives Maine over to France, I do recommend just Alt F4ing until the war happens, because this is very necessary for our run right here. Now that everything is in place, basically we've allied Castile, the rival to England, and this war has started, now it's just a waiting game. All we gotta wait for right here is to get Miltech 4, which you should get in 1449 or 1450. Right after you get Miltech 4, that's when we're gonna be declaring over on England. In the meantime, keep spying on England and don't claim anything else, and keep currying favors with Castile. After you improve with Castile to the max, start improving relations with France. Even though you can ally them, we still want to have good relations before we do. If the War of the Roses starts while you still haven't declared on England, of course, don't offer them any support. This is actually not that good. We kind of don't want this to happen until after we fight England, but of course, as always, it's just RNG. Either way, about 1 year before you get Miltech 4, basically 1 year before you declare on England, what you're going to want to do is activate your forts and activate the defensive edict over here in this state where we have the 2 forts, just like that, so England and their allies from Ireland won't be able to siege this fort down. And then you're also going to want to go ahead and hire the free company just like that and max out army maintenance. You're also going to want to tell your subject, the Isles, to be supportive and enable them to attach to both your main army and free company. And once you are ready to get Miltech 4, go ahead and do it, and it will be time to start our first war. Now, like I said earlier, by this point, Castile may have declared on Granada right here, but that doesn't matter because they will still join your war. And if Castile has declared on Granada and Portugal is in that war as well with them, then Portugal won't come in versus England after we call in Castile. In my case, that hasn't happened, and we will be fighting Portugal, but once again, it's not a problem because Castile will help us deal with them and we can just take all of their money and stuff like that. So simply go ahead and declare your war on England right here for the conquest of Northumberland, which is this fort right here, and go ahead and call in your ally Castile. You will be a little bit outnumbered over here, especially if England has gotten lots of allies over in Ireland. They usually have about 30k-ish troops, and these guys will bring in about 5 to 10k more, but don't worry, these guys won't be able to come down here and help England because of your fort, and you will very easily be able to crush England because you have a Miltech advantage. In my trial runs, I've beaten 40k troops that were sieging Dumfries with my 25k plus the Isles right here, so don't worry, it's not difficult at all. Either way, once you get Miltech 4, go ahead and declare for Northumberland and call in Castile. Don't use your navy in this war. England still has us beat on that front. Only when Castile comes in to help should you pop out your navy. if they even come in to help at all. Since I got 100 mil points from an event earlier, I hired a regular general, but what you would normally do in this scenario is give your ruler military command. As we can see right here in this fort, we have really good defensiveness, whereas England, they don't. So we should be able to get Northumberland before they even get close to getting Dumfries in 99% of scenarios. As you can see, while we're sieging this, Castile is beating up Portugal very easily. And now I'm going to show you this battle right here. As we can see, England has about 29k troops. I have about 24k right here. So we're just going to simply go ahead and walk into Dumfries. Hopefully our subject, the Isles, will follow suit. And let's take a look at this battle. This should be an easy victory because we have Miltech 4 over them. And there we go. It's as simple as that. Now you can go ahead and continue to siege down England. After you've beat England up in your initial battle right here in Dumfries, they will usually have 2 stacks. You're of course going to want to try and look for these stacks while they're separated and beat them up one by one. And keep checking if England has ever gotten Miltech 4. If they have gotten Miltech 4 just like you, well, you're going to want to be more careful with your battle. When you go to peace out Portugal, don't make England end their alliance with them. This is because if we make England end this alliance, England may ally someone else that's even stronger than Portugal that we're going to have a hard time defeating, like Austria, for example. By keeping this alliance right here, we can always call in Castile to help us beat up Portugal and just take money and stuff like that from them. So don't make them end this alliance, just take war reps and all of Portugal's money. As we can see, even though these small Irish guys are in the war, they're not really able to do anything to us over here. And after a little bit of time, you will be able to get around 90 or 100 war score versus England, and you may have even been able to white peace or simply go ahead and siege down the Irish miners and then peace them out. In my game, France has taken everything from England over in mainland Europe, even Calais right here, which they usually don't, and they've also made them pop out the nation of Meath over here, which is honestly not too relevant. We would be taking that from England even if they still owned it. So in the interest of not getting beaten up right here, I'm gonna go ahead and peace out. And this is what you want to do to England in your first peace deal. First, I recommend taking these 2 provinces right here so we can release the nation of Northumberland and get that fort over there. Then we're going to take these 2 provinces right here for ourselves. Then I recommend taking these 3 provinces as well, this entire state, and the province of Montgomery so we can release Wales. Then I do also recommend getting war reps since we will be pretty poor right here at the start. And then for the rest of the war score, depending on what you want to do, you could either take all of their money or you could not take any money at all and instead take these 3 provinces right here. It's totally up to you what you do. If you're a less experienced player, I recommend taking the money so you don't struggle with the income as much, but if you're more experienced, I of course do recommend taking the land. It's totally up to you. In my game, I'm gonna take the land right here, and then a little bit of money as well. And that's your first war done, and we've completely decimated England. They're not a problem anymore. Right after this war is done, you're gonna go ahead and release the nation of Wales, just like that, and then we'll reconquer these cores for them, and you should also go ahead and release the nation of Northumberland, just like that. They're gonna pop out over here, and we'll reconquer these cores for them. And that's your initial war done. Now it's time to go back home, chill for a little bit, get our manpower and income situation sorted, and after that, we'll continue our conquests over in Ireland. After this war is done, you can go ahead and ally France. Once you do ally France, you will be able to take the mission The Old Alliance, where we gain some permaclaims on these areas right here. And because we've taken these provinces right here, we'll also be able to take the mission Advance the Frontier, which gives us further claims over in England, along with prestige and monthly autonomy chain. After this war is done, you can go ahead and get some larger new loans to help you pay off the smaller old loans. And once you pay off the smaller old burgher loans, you can get larger new burgher loans to help you pay off the larger new regular loans or the smaller old regular loans, just like that. At this point, you should also start improving relations with your own subjects, and you can also delete the free company to save some money, just like that. And then you can also give the nobility strong duchies along with the nobility integration policy. Because our cavalry does cost quite a lot at this point in the game, and we'd rather use that money for advisors or something like that, I recommend getting rid of 2 cavalry regiments. After you go into the positive with your income, just like I have right now, I do recommend building up a couple of galleys. For tier 2 government reform, you should take strength and noble privileges or compromise with the nobility. The nobles aren't too influential either way because of this modifier right here, so you can definitely go with this, even though it's not that needed since we do have manpower international ideas. But either strength and noble privileges or compromise with the nobility. I'm gonna take this one. After you've gotten Tech 4 in every category, which you should have done way earlier, I do recommend activating the Encourage Development State Edict in your capital state of the Lowlands right here and developing your capital Lothian up to 30 so you can help speed up the spawning of the Renaissance and take off the age objective for a large city. Of course, since it does start off at 16 dev, you could expand infrastructure first and then you can go ahead and bump it on up to 10 in every category, or whatever you want, depending on the points you have. If you can't go into Scotland from all the claims you have because these guys are allied to England or something like that, like they are in my game, you can go ahead and spy on someone else that's potentially not allied to England. Of course, you could fight an English ally in order to reset your truce with England and then fight them faster. It's totally up to you in which way you do it. In my game, I've started spying on Meath since I don't really want to get involved with England again just right now. This is how I'm gonna start my conquest over in Ireland, by declaring on this nation right here and just naval invading them. Like I said, I don't really want to get involved with England right now. Of course, you can co-belligerent or full annex anyone that's even not a co-belligerent when fighting over in Ireland. Once you're done with whichever war over in Ireland that you're fighting, you can go ahead and take as much as you want in these wars. You don't really care about coalitions or aggressive expansion here. The only nations that are going to be mad are the Irish guys and England. You already have a truce with England, so they can't coalition you, and the Irish guys, well, they don't really matter. So go ahead and take however much you want and everybody's money. And that's my first war right here done. Pretty soon I'll fight some of these guys that aren't allied to England. And this is my next war declaration versus this nation right here. Now that this war is done, I'll be full annexing this nation as well. If France ever decides to fight Burgundy and you help them out, just like in my game right here, be careful of these guys as navies. They have a deceptively strong navy, so go ahead and dock your boats if they haven't been built up yet, and get ready for some of them to even potentially land, so you can fight them. Once you hit Admin Tech 5, it will be time for your first idea group, and for your first idea group as Scotland, I recommend quality ideas. Now, even if you're staying as Scotland or forming Great Britain later on, and even if you're colonizing, you don't want to open up with exploration expansion, since we're not as close to the New World as, for example, Portugal and Castile are. So even though we're going to take exploration and expansion, of course, if you're planning on colonizing for our third and fourth idea groups, there'll still be plenty left to colonize over in North America, which is precisely what we're interested in. So even if you're colonizing, no exploration expansion for our first two idea groups. Instead, as Scotland, or even if you go on to form Great Britain later on, I do think quality ideas is a really nice opener. This will improve the quality of our armies even more, the combat ability stuff and the discipline is great, but we also do gain some buffs to our boats as well, which we will be utilizing quite a lot, so we definitely want to focus slightly on them as well. So, quality ideas for your first idea group. We're already focusing on Mill since the start. When you get the event, the Earldom of Orkney, where basically we can get Orkney and Shetland right here for free from Norway, and instead we only gain a royal marriage with Denmark, or we could refuse that, definitely go ahead and accept it. We definitely want to get this land, and we want to minimize the wars that we need to do it, so make the deal. And just like that, we get royal married with Denmark, and we gain these provinces right here. After you do that, you will be able to take the mission claiming the Northern Isles, which gives us legitimacy and permaclaims on the North Atlantic Islands area, which is the Faroe Islands and Iceland. Now, while I'm helping out France do this, I'm gonna continue on with my own wars. Basically, after we defeated England, we're fighting as many nations in Ireland as we can. We're pretty much gonna expand at the same pace that England is expanding here in as well. So I'm just gonna declare on Desmond right here, co-belligerent their ally right here, and that's that. Now that this war is done too, I'll also be full annexing both of these nations as well. After you're done fighting everyone that you can over in Ireland, it's pretty much time to chill and wait for your truce with England to expire, where we're gonna hit them again in our second war. Whenever you find yourself with some spare diplo points, promote English culture. And pretty much whenever 10 years have passed after the start of the game, you can go ahead and annex the Isles. I didn't do it earlier because I was in wars constantly, but you can do it whenever you want to after 1454. Of course, make sure you've given out the integration policy over to the nobility first. The annexation will be instant since we start off with cores on them, and then you'll be able to take the mission Revoke the Isles, where you gain some base manpower in the Highlands area. Once you start making money and start getting larger burger loans, that's when you should start improving your nation by building buildings. Of course, first, you're gonna wanna go ahead and put down marketplaces in all the center of trade and estuary provinces, like your capital right here, this province over here, anything you've taken from England, like in my game, these two provinces, and then anything you've taken over in Ireland as well. After that, you can start building some churches. After you build marketplaces, you'll be able to take the mission North Sea Trade, which gives you trade efficiency plus 15% for 20 years. This sort of starts our mini colonization branch of the Scottish mission tree. Now that my truce with England and Tyrone is up, first I'll actually go ahead and declare on Tyrone right here just to clean them up, and after that I'll move on with my second war versus England. By the time you get to fight your second war versus England, there should be no other nations left in Ireland except for you and possibly England. For your tier 3 government reform, I recommend expanded royal court, but later when you start colonizing, you of course could swap over to exile colonial companies. Now that I've defeated Tyrone, I'll be full annexing them. And now that my truce with England is up, and once yours is up as well, it will be time for your second war versus England, where we're gonna declare a reconquest for one of Northumberland's cores, like York for example, and then we're gonna give all of those cores back to them, and we're gonna take something else for ourselves as well. Earlier on, I did ally Aragon. Aragon still isn't willing to help me out, and we don't really need their help either, so I'm just gonna declare like this, pretty much the same types of allies that they had earlier, and I'm gonna call in France and Castile. And that's your second war with England started. So whenever your truce expires and whenever you're ready, go ahead and declare. Keep in mind that at this point, England will be as strong as you were in the first war, so the first war is actually probably a little bit easier than this one, but still, you'll have no problems. Once again, try not to utilize your boats. England might still have a stronger navy than you. Of course, depending on what your goals are in this Scotland to possibly Great Britain campaign, you could always take a province or two from Portugal when you're fighting them while you're fighting England if you ever plan on expanding over in this region. So maybe you're going for a sort of Scotland to Roman Empire campaign or something, and you want to expand into the Maghreb, or you want to colonize a bit faster. You could of course take the province of Ceuta from Portugal, and after that push into Morocco. In my game, for example, I don't have any goals like that, so that's why I'm not taking anything from Portugal, but in your game, if you want to, you definitely could. For your first stage ability, you should take Justified Wars. And once you go ahead and beat up England in your second war versus them, I recommend giving Northumberland all of their cores back and then taking whatever else you want for yourself. We're going to give Wales's cores back to them later, so what I'm going to do is take all of the provinces over here in Ireland, and then I'm also going to take these provinces right here because I do have claims on them. And there we go, that's my second war with England done. Later on in our third war, we'll retake Wales's cores and once again a little something extra for ourselves. But once you do go ahead and take quite a lot of provinces over here, you will be able to take the mission into England, which gives us permaclaims on East Anglia and the London area, these areas right here. And once you do take all of the provinces in the Ulster area, which ideally you would do first, you will be able to take the mission into Ireland, which gives us further claims on the rest of the Irish provinces. And once you conquer all of Ireland, you'll get morale of armies plus 10% for 20 years, which of course you could save up for a big war if you're getting ready for it, but I'm gonna take it immediately right here for the purposes of the guide. Now it's time to chill and wait for our second truce with England to expire, and in the meantime, if you're not playing a tall campaign where you're just staying in the British Isles and colonizing, you could look for other areas of expansion, one of which, and maybe the only one for now, is expanding into Norway or the Kalmar Union, depending on the situation. In my game right here, Denmark has both Sweden and Norway, and of course these guys' navies are pretty massive, so we will have to build up our navy quite a lot before we get ready to fight them in order to take these provinces, or if we have this age ability right here, we could of course also just get Norway transferred over to us from Denmark. Either way, now it's time to once again focus on improving your nation economically and building up that navy and army. Once you take control of all of Ireland, you can delete this fort down here. Once you've given Northumberland all of their cores back, you can of course annex them as well. Of course, at any point, you could also royal marry Burgundy if you can, in hopes of getting the Burgundian succession. I'm not gonna do it in my game right here because I'm simply not interested in that, but if you are interested, definitely go ahead and royal marry them. There's no downside. Whenever you can, make sure to full state everything and keep lowering autonomy too. I don't mention this in every guide because I do think pretty much everyone knows it, but definitely make sure to keep lowering autonomy. Now, I've integrated Northumberland. Whenever you can during the course of the early game right here, make sure to ally the Pope and get good relations with him. We are going to want to stay Catholic the entire game as Scotland, generally. During this time, I'm building some buildings, building some boats, and getting ready to potentially fight Denmark and Norway over here, either to just take these provinces from them, because we do want to do that for a mission, or maybe if I get this before I fight them, I could potentially get all of Norway transferred to me over from Denmark. This is something you might want to look into doing as well. However, like I said earlier, if you're planning on doing a tall colonization campaign or something like that, and you've already taken exploration ideas for some reason, you can just go ahead and stick to the Britain region right here and not focus on anything outside of here except for colonization. When you can select your naval doctrine, I do recommend going for the semi-unique wooden wall doctrine for +1 naval combat off of owned coasts. Now to continue with my wars, I will be declaring on Norway over here, even though none of my allies will join, only to get the province of the Faroe Islands right here and Iceland, since we do need it for a mission. I'm not going to be getting Norway transferred over to myself just yet in this war, and I'm only planning on occupying this and then sitting back and relaxing and waiting for war score to tick up until all of these guys get bored of the war and I can peace out for just these 3 provinces right here. I have built up my navy a little bit, 20 galleys and 10 transports right here. These guys still have a stronger navy than me, but I don't anticipate pretty much any naval battles going on. So there's my war right here for the Faroe Islands. This is optional, you can do it if you want to, not something you strictly necessarily need to do. And as we can see, after the war has started, it doesn't seem to be that far for Bohemia, and I can go ahead and call them in. I guess they can get involved over here a little bit. And Sweden is disloyal, so it's not like they're really in this war. For your tier 4 government reform, I recommend taking lands for the church. Like I said, we do want to get good relations with the Pope, and we're pretty much going to be staying Catholic for the entirety of the campaign, so this is a no-brainer. If you do end up fighting these guys, try and pick off smaller boat stacks, don't try and engage all of them at once. And Sweden just declared independence on Denmark right now as well, which is perfect for me. Now I can call in France as well, perfect. For your second idea group as Scotland, and maybe even as Great Britain later on, I do recommend a money-making idea group. If you're not planning on colonizing, and if you're planning on blobbing out over in Europe, I recommend a trade. If you are planning on colonizing and basically getting exploration expansion for your third and fourth idea groups, then I still recommend taking a money-making idea group, but not trade, instead economic ideas. Some of you guys may think economic isn't that good anymore since the changes introduced to it in the latest few patches, but I do think economic is still pretty good, especially with a nation such as us over here. It will help us out quite a lot. So economic ideas for your second idea group if you're colonizing or playing tall. If you're not colonizing and blobbing over in Europe, then trade. And now that I've actually taken this, the transfer subject age ability, and I have enough war score versus Denmark because I did achieve naval superiority, I can go ahead and peace out. And if you have this as well, you will be able to just take Norway for yourself by selecting this option right here. As we can see, it's only 65% war score and only 46.9 aggressive expansion for all of Norway, and you can take a look at their provinces right here. Norway actually is a pretty decent subject that you want to get if you're not planning on colonizing yourself, because they will be doing some colonization for you, however small it may be. So if you did end up fighting Denmark, you can just take these provinces for yourself, maybe take more provinces here for yourself, or you can just go ahead and take Norway instead. What I'm going to do is actually take Norway, but still take these provinces right here for myself. And then I'm going to go ahead and get war reps from Denmark and then all of their money as well. And that's my war with them done. Keep in mind that this is an optional war and not something you strictly need to focus on doing. This is only a you can do it if you want to type thing. Kind of like the Burgundian succession, which already happened, and Mecklenburg got it. But after you do take these islands over here, you will be able to take the mission The Cod Wars, where those provinces get local goods produced +2 for 20 years. At this point, we're still waiting for our truce with England to expire. If you want to compare your game to mine, at this point in the game, 1489, I'm making about 9 ducats a month. Either way, once your second truce with England is up, of course you're gonna go ahead and declare on them once again, and this time we're doing a reconquest for one of Wales's cores. Since they still have the same allies from earlier, I'm gonna call in my same allies from earlier just to make this quicker. And there we go. There's my third war versus England started. Yours as well. We'll be retaking Wales's cores and a little something else. And once you've completely crushed England, obviously you're going to give Wales all of their cores back, and then you can take as much as you want for yourself. I recommend taking the entire area of London right here, and then in our final war versus England, we'll wrap them up and we'll take this entire area right here. So that's your third war with England done. Now that Wales has all of its provinces back, you can go ahead and annex them as well. Additionally, once you do take London, you will be able to take the mission Conquer London, where this event happens, where you can basically take a bunch of development from London and put it over in your capital of Lothian, and you gain a dev discount and a construction discount in London, which I don't really recommend doing, or you can just leave London be. The reason I recommend for leaving it be is because we might move our capital over there later, or maybe just our main trade center, so we can move our main trade node over to England. Either way, once this is done, it's time to chill and still improve your nation economically. Interesting thing to note here, I still have my first general that I hired right at the start of the game. He's pretty old. Now I'll be annexing Wales. Whenever you can, make sure to promote Irish culture as well. Now I've annexed Wales too. Right now I've just taken out some new burger loans and we'll focus on monuments later, but as we can see, I've built marketplaces in all of my center of trade and estuary provinces, so I'm gonna keep putting down some production buildings in all the high value trade good provinces, and once you do that, you can also upgrade your centers of trade to level 2 in all of the provinces that have more 10 dev. For example, like in London, this one over here, this one over here, and these two I need to develop up to 10 and then upgrade them. Like I said earlier, at a certain point you might want to move your main trade capital or your regular capital over to London. Later, of course, if you do decide to form Great Britain, London will become your capital either way, but that's all the way at admin deck 10, so if you do want to do this, make sure to move your trade capital now. After that, you can rearrange your merchants, transfer from the North Sea or something like that, and transfer from Lubeck as well. If you do end up getting Norway as a subject, I don't really recommend on focusing focusing on annexing them. Like I said, they will do a little bit of colonization for you over in the Canada and northern US regions, so why not just let them do it? Of course, if Norway asks to become a march, you can even let them do that. It will be pretty helpful for them since Norway is a pretty poor nation. For your Tier 5 government reform as Scotland and maybe later as Great Britain as well, we do have some interesting options and a semi-unique one here as well. These are the ones, of course, that you already know that are available for pretty much any nation, but we also have this one right here, which gives us plus 10% national manpower, once again, just like strength and noble privileges, and with the manpower we already have, international ideas, plus 33% vassal force limit contribution, which is actually really strong after playing with subjects, along with nobles loyalty and nobles influence. I do think this is a very, very good reform. Of course, you could go with some of the naval ones as well if you're focusing on a navy heavy gameplay or role playing or something like that, but if you're not interested in this one or any of the boat ones, then I recommend organized military staff or military engineering. I do think this is the best one, however, keep in mind on the nobles' influence. In my game, I'm good to go ahead and take it. As we can see, once we take London and build a couple of buildings, move our main trade node over to the English Channel, income starts scaling quite rapidly. If you do end up taking control of Iceland, you'll also gain this very, very nice event for those two provinces right there, along with some money. With the goods produced modifiers that we got from this mission right here, the Cod Wars, and with this event right here, we're actually making really, really good money over from these two provinces, even though they only produce fish. As we can see, the Protestant Reformation has spawned over in my game. You could go Protestant if you want to. You could go Anglican even if England rejects it and then you gain that event. But I do recommend staying Catholic as Scotland. As you can see, I am building quite a few buildings. I'm doing this with the help of loans and burger loans as well. It'll help us scale much faster, so don't be afraid to take out massive amounts of loans in order to help you build buildings. It'll pay off quite a lot later. Right now, what I'm doing in my game is waiting for my truce with England to expire. Of course, there are a couple of great projects over in Great Britain, and we do start off with the Edinburgh Castle right here, which is pretty good at Tier 1 for defending ourselves, and it is pretty good at Tier 3 for the +1 military free policies, but then again, we also have the Tower of London over in London, which is pretty nice for later on in the game, and the Stonehenge is decent as well for some conversion. There's no need to strictly focus on upgrading any of them, but they are pretty nice to do when you have the money. Right now, since I'm good on force limit, I am making enough money, and I do have massive amounts of manpower, I will be constructing a second army. When you do have the money, you could construct a flagship as well, or you could hold off and get the unique British abilities for your flagship. Once your truce with England expires and they have these provinces left, you can go ahead and declare your final war versus them in order to full annex them. Or maybe not. Let's see what I mean after I go ahead and beat them up. And once you go ahead and defeat England in your final war, you can go ahead and full annex them. Or maybe not. First, you're gonna want to check and see if they have taken exploration or exploration expansion ideas, and in my case, they have. Now, what you could do in a scenario like this is simply go ahead and vassalize them and make them your subject, and they will go ahead and colonize for you, which will be great. If you have Norway, now you have England too, and that's basically two subjects that'll colonize for you, so you can not colonize yourself and focus on other areas, or you could, of course, colonize yourself if you want to as well. Keep in mind that you can form Great Britain even if England as your subject with the Form British Nation diplomatically option right here, which doesn't need them to have less than 41 provinces, which they most likely will, even if they do go ahead and colonize for you. So if you've gotten Norway, maybe it is a pretty good idea to get England to colonize for you as well. If not, if you're not interested, like I'm not interested in my game right here, then you can simply go ahead and full annex England, and then once you hit Admin Tech 10, immediately form Great Britain in the non-diplomatic way. So keep in mind, in your final war versus England, check and see if you want to possibly vassalize them and have them colonize for you. I'm going to full annex them and take all of their money. And that's my final war with England. Done. After that, you will be able to take the mission Rule Britannia, which gives us prestige and some very nice naval bonuses as well. And by the time you fight England in your final war, your game should look a little something like this. Basically, we start off as Scotland, and like I said at the start of the video, even though so many newer players are deterred from playing Scotland due to the fact that everyone thinks it's harder than England, it's actually not. It's way easier than fighting England. All we had to do was hook up with France and Castile, curry favors with Castile, wait to get Miltech 4, wait for the surrender of Main War, and then beat up England very easily. After you defeated England in your first war, you should have focused on Ireland, and then we popped out Northumberland and Wales. In your second war, you reconquered Northumberland's cores and took other stuff from you. In your third war, you got Wales's cores and took other things from you, and then in your next war, you full annexed England or made them your subject and had them colonized for you. And that's basically the early game over here as Scotland, consolidating the entirety of Great Britain and Ireland. And of course, in the meantime, you have gotten these provinces, these two right here from the event with Norway and Denmark. And if you want to do this as optional, you could have expanded over here in these provinces, or like I said, you could have even made Norway your subject. And by this point, you either have no subjects, maybe Norway as a subject, or maybe England as a subject as well, and you're ready to possibly kickstart your own colonization game or have your subjects colonized for you. In this time though, we weren't only focusing on expanding and bullying England and expanding over in Ireland as well. You should have been significantly focusing on improving your nation economically during peacetime. What I'm going to show off right here is what you should have been building by this point as well. We can take a look at all of the marketplaces in all of the center of trade provinces, and all of those center of trade provinces are upgraded to level 2. I even got the birth of a new city event right here in this province, which is super nice. This is basically one more center of trade. I've also built workshops in all the high value trade good provinces and provinces that make me lots of money as well. A bunch of churches as well, as we can see right here. A couple of barracks here and there. No navy buildings just yet, but that is pretty good for now. And I have been building a couple of buildings in my subject Norway as well. And of course, we've been doing a little bit of deving as well when we were overflowing with points. And I even used up some diplo points to do some culture conversion so I can free up some promoted culture slots. And that is what your economy should be looking like by this point in the game. As we can see, I'm running two full armies right here, 24-4-7, and both of them are pretty nicely drilled up as well. The 24-4-7 composition is pretty good for this combat with right here. Pretty good professionalism as well. And I do have a decently sized navy over here that I don't need these light ships in. A 5-20-10 fleet. And of course, I have a fleet protecting trade over in the English Channel trade node as well. And this is how much money I'm making with all of that right now. Plus 22 ducats a month. Income is about 58. Expenses are about 36. And inflation is going down. And of course, after this point, you will continue to make a lot more money as well, especially from trade. And this is all that you should own by now. After this point, you'll continue to expand in the same directions we've already been expanding in if you want to. Like I said, there are a couple of ways you could play over in the Britain region. Maybe you want to take all of this and play tall, not do colonizing or anything else, just focus on building up your nation economically. You could conquer all of this and then not focus on Europe and go ahead and colonize. You can conquer all of this and push into Europe as well if you want to, depending on what your goals are. You can take either of these 3 or 4 different scenarios of expansion. If you're expanding over into Europe, you've probably gotten Norway already, so you can start from there, or you could push into the HRE right here, break your alliance with France. The choices are up to you. If you're not planning on expanding over in Europe, then you're just chilling for a little bit, waiting for your subjects to colonize, maybe annexing them and getting their colonies so you can colonize from that. Or if not, you're just waiting for your next idea group so you can pick up exploration expansion and start colonizing yourself. So once you've taken care of this, if you're expanding, you're good to go ahead and start expanding over to Europe. If not, you can go ahead and wait to colonize. Maybe you've even gotten some provinces down here from Portugal and you can expand over in this region. The choices are totally up to you. And this is pretty similar to an England to Great Britain campaign, except with England, we'd be conquering a lot more over here in the early part of the game. Whereas in the early part of the game as Scotland, we're focusing on conquering over here. Speaking of colonization, if you do end up colonizing, of course, as Scotland and later maybe Great Britain, since we control this northern portion over here, and maybe you'd want to go for the control of the entirety of the English Channel as well later on. Of course, you will want to colonize everything that's pretty much over in North America right here up until the Panama Channel or something like that, because we do have a mission for the Panama Channel as Scotland over here, the Darien Scheme, and a mission for Nova Scotia as well. So the regions up here are sort of the ones you want to focus on colonizing as Scotland or later Britain, and maybe you can go on into Africa or India and the East Indies later on as well. No real reason to focus on South America when colonizing, and of course make sure to trade company the stuff that you conquer over in the old world as well. This is what we took for our first 2 idea groups. Even if you're colonizing or not colonizing, like I said, quality for your first idea group, then economic if you're gonna colonize, trade if you're not gonna colonize, and then exploration and expansion for your 3rd and 4th idea groups if you're colonizing. If you're not colonizing, you can go with another mill one and then with another money-making idea one. After that, it's solely up to you. So quality, economic, or trade, exploration, expansion, or quality, economic, or trade, and then maybe something like quantity or offensive, and then economic or trade once again. This is what we took for our first 5 government reforms. For tier 6, I recommend royal decree after absolutism. Before absolutism, you can go aristocratic court or general estates. For tier 7, I recommend the meritocratic recruitment, or you could go with strengthened parliament as well, even though it's not really that good. For tier 8, if you're colonizing, go with exploitation of the new world. If you're not colonizing, you can go ahead and empower the burghers triggers or embrace the economic theory. For tier 9, I recommend this one, and for tier 10 and tier 11, all of them are really good. Take whichever one you want. At that point in the game, you won't make a mistake with either one of them. And like I said, by the time you fight your final war versus England, your realm should look a little something like this. If you're not that confident in your abilities, or if you're not sure if your game is going to go like mine, this save file is available for all YouTube members in the Save Games Discord channel, and you could continue playing as Scotland from this date forward. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot, and if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of them. And you can become a member today and join the Discord, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.